Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here with all of you and to come to you with one of my coaching clients, Judy. And together, her and I are going to share her story of hope and how she got to her dream baby. And I hope you guys just, take what you can from it. And I'm sure you're going to see parts of yourself in Judy's story and also just, understand how one woman like you got to the other side and did receive her child. So, Judy, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored that you want to come and share your story with all these other women that are still dreaming of their dream baby.
Of course, I'm really happy to be here. Like
Tell
many of
us.
you
Yeah.
and everyone who might be watching or listening or reading one of Aimee's books. I think I might have been maybe right before I turned 40. I was
Yeah. You were
39.
39 when you came to me. Yeah.
And for the record, I'm 42 now. And I picked up Aimee's book, Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. And I was reading it. I remember I was on a plane and I read the whole thing in probably a day or two. And I probably reached out to her team shortly after to start coaching when my husband and I decided we were going to probably start trying for our third baby. And it didn't take that long for me to get pregnant shortly after. There were probably just a few adjustments that we had to make to the diet.
Yeah.
I was already eating pretty healthy.
You were. I think the biggest thing was like, if I remember, let's see, I have there was that coffee drink you were doing in the morning that I didn't love. 10 ounces of organic coffee, 10 ounces, collagen, peptide scoop, hemp seeds, ghee, MCT. So we had you, I think what you did was you switched that up. You added some bone broth and cut back on the coffee. That was like a big switch. And then we
added the key supplements, the spirulina, the fish oil, the liver, kind of adjusted some of my portions and stuff like that. Did some of the
Tell them about before too, even before you came to me, because didn't you had an ectopic?
Mm-hmm.
So you have two other children though. Tell us. So there.
I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old.
6-year-old.
And in between the 9 and 6-year-old, I also had 2 miscarriages. And so getting pregnant has not always come easily to me. And then we also, before picking up Aimee's book, we also thought, well, maybe in the future we can try IVF and put some embryos on ice. So I think in 2018 we had done some IVF and failed, and I think I did 2 rounds and it didn't even work.
It didn't work. But you had also discovered that you had factor V and the MTHFR. So we already knew that you needed Lovenox with a pregnancy. Right. But that alone wasn't solving the problem, if you will, of like the challenges. Yeah.
Right. So, we tweaked the diet, got some supplements. I got rid of some of the chemicals that I hadn't, been aware of, but otherwise, we were pretty chemical free.
Then we added in more carbs. Remember, you were like low on the carbs. I had you add in like a whole sweet potato a day, if I remember.
Yes, which I was a little bit resistant of at first, but then I was, I welcomed it because it was really good. And I think I gained a little bit of weight because I tried to get back up to what my pre-pregnancy weight was when I had gotten pregnant before. Yes. So I gained a little, maybe like 5 or 6 pounds. And I got pregnant, I don't know, like within a month of coaching And then lockdown happened for COVID. And the day that schools canceled and closed everything is when I had the miscarriage, which was really hard. in a way, but at the same time, it was also kind of a big distraction for everybody. So I was a bit preoccupied with that as well.
Yeah. How far along were you with that loss?
6 weeks.
Yeah. And we were doing the Lovenox and we had incorporated the changes. So we knew like something more was kind of going on there, if you will.
Yeah. And it was the same time and kind of same pattern with my other miscarriages that I had between my other girls. So it felt similar to those. But I didn't send any of the tissue in for testing, so we didn't really know why. And then after that, I think we kept doing some more coaching. I stayed on the diet, and because of the challenges with COVID and work, my husband was like, this isn't a good time to try. And, with my personality, I'm like, I got to get back on the saddle and try again. And that was really hard for me, being like, well, if we're not trying again, then what am I supposed to do? And I think we kept coaching maybe for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Through, let's see, into 2021, basically. Well, we started in January of 2019. And I have notes here too, from as far up to as May, end of May, 2020.
And so, I found, it was COVID, so nobody went anywhere. And I found myself kind of repeating Aimee's eCourse and, watching some of the Facebook recorded sessions like this and stories of hope while I was going on a walk. And I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? And kept thinking, well, what did I do wrong? And how can I fix this? And I started feeling like maybe something that I haven't worked on is the emotional piece or the spiritual piece. And I wanted to connect with the spiritual side. And I really felt strongly that there was a baby that wanted to come through. And it hadn't dawned on me that I was really trying to make a baby come into this life on my terms, when in reality, that's probably not how it works. These spirits and babies all have their own timelines that we need to respect. And that's a lesson that I have now learned. But at the time, I was really just so fixated on controlling everything that I started kind of working on the emotional part and spiritual part that Aimee talks about so much in her course.
You said before we started recording, you said the question I asked you.
Right. She asked me, what if I could promise you that you would get pregnant and you would have this third baby? She said, I'm not going to give you a time of when, but if I could promise that this would happen, what would you do differently? And I remember thinking, well, I'd go live my life and I'd stop controlling everything and I'd be able to breathe again. And she said, well, then why don't you go do that? And I remember that concept felt so strange to me, like, well, I can't do that, and then I thought, well, maybe that's what I need to do. And that was really a hard pill for me to swallow, but it was also COVID and I had nothing else to really focus on and we weren't going to keep trying. So that's what I did. And I slowly started letting go to the point where I 100% let go and made peace with not having another baby and having 2 children. And I saw my future of just having 2 little girls and it was fine. And then I got pregnant 2 years later with this little, baby that's 3 months old and upstairs, hanging out with our nanny, so it was just kind of a really crazy and way for things to kind of come full circle, but it was definitely the way that things were meant to be.
Well, and what would you say, so during that time, like the letting go process or that surrender piece, did you, because we hadn't been talking at that point, like you would check in here and there, send an email, or I would check in on you. And then of course you did check in when you found out you were pregnant, but I don't think you found out till you were like almost 8 weeks, right? Wasn't it like something like that? Like, did you know right away?
Yeah, I think I was
Yeah.
I was maybe 5 or 6 weeks. I
Okay.
knew
You
because
knew
I
right away.
was
Yeah.
could tell something was not right, but or different.
And
But
what were you like during that time? Did you like diet and supplement wise and lifestyle wise? I mean, you were always like, that's what you said in the beginning of this, of like, she came to me already doing so many of the things. There were small tweaks that we made. But what would you say was kind of your general approach to life at that point in time, as far as like health is concerned?
well, I mean, regardless of trying or not, I felt so much healthier on the diet. I felt so much healthier with the supplements. Knock on wood, I stopped getting sick and felt like I was so much healthier with taking the spirulina and the fish oil, the cod, the stuff in the blue bottle, and the that's what I call it. And it's I still take it. I never took a prenatal. I took all of those other things, and so I feel I felt like that was just kind of the way that I adjusted my life, regardless if I was trying or not. And it wasn't even it one when I found out that I was pregnant, I literally had to take a step back and think, is this something that I can even think about or picture our family with? I had let go that much. And and it was so far from where I had been, 2 years before. So I honestly think it's such a blessing, but yet something that was really meant to be. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without meeting you and getting myself prepared. Definitely not at 42.
Yeah, 42. And oh, I just had a question. What was it? Just thinking about like in that time frame of getting pregnant. So was the trying back on the table or not? Not even then, of like, for you guys, not at all. Okay.
No, and because I had the ectopic and I have that one fallopian tube, we just didn't really think that without we didn't really think that I could get pregnant without really trying that hard. So we didn't think it was going to happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you did the Lovenox through that pregnancy too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no hiccups there whatsoever. Obviously, no. She came out the other side.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing. And yeah, I suppose too, of like thinking back before we did our work together, and I guess the emotional piece and the unpacking, because looking at that version of yourself, and like I think thinking about a lot of the women that are watching this, of like, what would be your advice, even like from approaching that like feeling good and healthy perspective, but also that living your life perspective. What do you think you could say to that version of you that she would hear, actually?
So, I mean, it's really easier. It's always easier said than done to let go and to not try. But if you can take just some baby steps to do something for yourself, or to reclaim a little bit of your life, or answer that question that you asked me, what would you do if I promised you that you could get pregnant, and or whatever that goal is, and just do a little bit of that, just because I think that part was so important towards me achieving, bringing Eva into this world at the time that she came in, without me even really knowing it or trying for her to.
And that too, I feel like the changes you made really became about your health and your well-being and your vitality. then about, because I think when you first came, like we did talk about it before we started recording, but like her one question was, let me see if I can find it. Cause, what else do I have to do? Is there anything else? And it was like, I wrote it in like all caps with like 3 question marks. Like it was a very strong question of like, I'm doing all the things. I read the book, like, what else, you know? And of course, like we made our tweaks, right. And then we had that loss, which sucked. And then we did go into lockdown and all those things. But then there started to be this shift where it was like, focusing on your family as it is now and focusing on your joy instead of, you know, this baby being so I do feel like too, at one point there was that conversation of like, am I feeling guilty about not being in the present moment, but being so focused on this other child versus focusing on the family that you did have.
Right. Right. And that was definitely part of it. And as I was kind of shifting from that towards letting go and focusing on having and being completely at peace with my family of 4. That was the transformation kind of that I made. And the way you said it was described, my focus of being present and being there with them and not focusing on, okay, well, I will feel complete when we have another one, and I will be present when we have another one, and I will then, you know, be able to be happy. It's, you know, I'm happy now, and I'm good now, and look how great these girls are now. And so I think it's important to, yeah.
This little one's like the cherry on top, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you have moments too, like I'm sure in the pregnancy of like, was it surreal? Because I do know too, and this happens a lot when I work with anyone, you know, any of my clients, there's a very strong clarity that there is meant to be another child. Like it's not just the desire, it's like something behind that desire that's driving you know, all the things you're doing to bring this child through. And so obviously you came to peace with that, and I'm sure even grieved it a little bit. But then when it did happen, and then obviously you don't miscarry and the pregnancy continues on, was there this sense of like, I don't know, coming, like trusting your intuition of like, oh, I did always know, like you were meant to, or even like now that she's here, do you have those moments where you're like, oh, you were so meant to come right now?
Oh, like 1,000%. And that process wasn't easy at all. And like you said, I grieved it. I was sad about it. You know, it took me a long time to, you know, get over not having another one, because I thought if I don't try for it, nobody is going to try for it, and it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I never thought that it was just going to spontaneous, you know, baby, just not going to happen to me, you know. And how wrong was I? And I love that lesson that I've learned through her, because that trust, like you said, like it's helped me with other parts of my life to just trust the process, that, you know, let go, and the universe will kind of guide and put things in front of you, and you don't need to effort for everything. Some things, yes, but you know, not for everything.
And even that, you know, that piece where it's like you said in the beginning, you know, that it's on their timing, right? And so, and that's something that I always do talk about, and I know you and I talked about, where it's like our job is to prepare the vessel, right? To prepare you, and then the rest is spirit's job, and however you take spirit or whatever that is, but that there's another human that's deciding to come through and join your family, and it's their timeline as well. So it is that thing of like getting out of the way and not trying to control the time frame so much. And even like the distance between your children, right? The age gap too, which I feel like was a big thing in the beginning as well.
Right. And that also puts a lot of pressure on everyone, on you, on that baby coming through, on your kids, whether they know it or not. It's all this subconscious kind of energy and pressure that I think everybody can feel. And it just kind of, I think, suffocates the entire process and makes it difficult for everyone. So not having that. And right now we have a really strange sort of stage of life gap, having a, fourth grader, first grader, and a 3-month-old, but it's a beautiful type of chaos that I wouldn't want any other way.
And that also, you did pursue IVF at 30 or 38 or 39, right? And it didn't go well. And it's just so interesting that then to go on and be 3 years older and to spontaneously and naturally conceive a healthy, beautiful child and carry to term. I think it goes against all the norms that we're told and taught. And even the anxiety that you came to me with of like, I remember it was like, I don't think I want to go back to that IVF process. That was kind of terrible. But your doctor was like, this is kind of the option. We should go and do another IVF. And, and then you got pregnant soon after that. So then it kind of like shifted gears where it was like, okay, this can still happen on my terms. Let's see.
Yeah. And I think he was even like telling me like donor egg was next on the list. And I was like, okay, well, I think I might want to reconsider other options before, going down that road, which, I could have probably considered that if that's what I wanted to go to, but it just seemed a little premature to kind of go down that road immediately before even, trying.
I love it. I love it. Well, I thank you so much for coming and sharing. Do you have any words of wisdom for the version of you in the past that's out there watching right now?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that the version of me in the past, there's a version of me right now that probably needs to hear it on other issues too in my life now. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much that we try to control, and like I said before, it's so much easier said than done. And I would hate hearing other people say, just let go. And I really still kind of cringe when I hear it, which is kind of weird to say that out loud. But, if you can find a way, even if it's a small way every day, to let go a little bit of control in your own way, then it might, trust that it could, give you what you want in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too of like, you still prioritized you still prioritized joy, you still prioritized health, and you kept yourself like, and that's kind of what I talk about in the course all the time too, of like the consistency and frequency. And so you really, and I have a similar case, and she was 47 when she actually gave birth, but it was very similar where she let go, she grieved that second child, but didn't change much of what we implemented lifestyle wise and diet wise and supplement, because she felt great. And then same thing, like, closed the door when she turned 46 and then spontaneously got pregnant. And yeah, and it's a similar story though. It's like, and I've seen that multiple times too, where it's, when you shift the focus to like you and feeling good, and I'm going to keep up with this stuff because, oh, my hair and my skin do look great. And I'm like, I think even with you were getting less, like migraines were a big part of your life and they were getting better. And so it's like, you were just feeling better. And so why would you change those things, but making it less about, I have to do all these things for baby, and more about, I'm doing these things because I feel good. And, and you completely let go. I think others can reach that point of like, and if baby's meant to come through, they'll come through on their timeline versus one that I'm trying to force. And that I think is like the biggest, right? Yeah.
Right.
The surrender piece, which I always joke, if I could bottle surrender, I would. And, I'd give it away for free. I wouldn't sell it, I promise. But, it's like, it's not easy to get to, but I think you're the perfect example of like, you did really let go, and you did really try. You really showed up and tried hard, for those, I'd say that solid year. And then it was like, you know what, this is not the direction I want my life to go in, where it's just, I'm so focused on this one thing and the trying. And so I'm going to let go. And, we did our thing where we would check in here and there. And then, yeah, I love those emails. When I got the one from you of like, yeah, just a heads up. I think maybe that's what I'm remembering, because I was going through emails. You emailed me when you were 8 weeks pregnant, and you were like, this is what's happening. And then you kept me abreast of the situation throughout.
Yeah.
So lovely. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Judy, for taking the time. I appreciate it so much. And we will let you get back to your beautiful chaos. And I thank all of you guys for tuning in and watching this story of hope. I hope it's helped you feel more peace in your heart and just where you're at in the journey. So thank you so much.